All right, hello. We are on module 8, where we are going to fully be working in Photoshop, choosing some work that we've already made, whether it's like personal work or class work, a sketch, a drawing, a painting, a sculpture, and we're going to be editing this in Photoshop. So fully in Photoshop this week. So for this assignment, let me get to the assignment page. For this assignment, we will need that original image of your work that you're editing, and I'm going to go through that. We want this to be as large as possible, this image size. So that means when you send it to yourself, you are sending it to through email. Sometimes it asks you how large you want the attachment. We want this as large as possible, or if you can directly upload that image to your Google Drive from your phone, or if I would even suggest using a DSLR, taking an image there, and then offloading that image from the SD card and using that, because that's going to give you the biggest image size possible, so we're not losing details, because we are going to be resizing this. And if you guys might remember from module 7, when we resize or when we change the resolution, we get scaling. It scales itself down, so we're losing detail. And if we go to scale it up, then as raster images are made of pixels instead of in Illustrator how they're vectors, we can't infinitely scale them. We start seeing the pixels. So we'll need that original image, and we will be converting it over to a 300 ppi CMYK image. You guys should be familiar with CMYK and 300 ppi. Those are settings we use for printing. And then you'll upload your Photoshop file to your Google Drive, and then that reference image to that assets folder. So let me get started. Get rid of this. And I'm gonna just show you guys. I haven't even taken a picture of my sketch yet. I'm gonna work with a sketch in this demo, and then I think I'm gonna do a 3D object in the class demo. But I have my sketch. Let me go ahead. I'm gonna take a picture with my phone, and I just have an old iPhone, iPhone 11, so it's good, but it's not the best. So I'm gonna take a picture, get it onto my computer, and we'll go from there. So I'll be right back. All right, so I have the image on my desktop, and I just emailed it to myself. Actual size, it was 2.3 meg. Let me go ahead and rename this. Let me check the naming convention. Oh, did I close that? No, I didn't. Rename. So it can be, mine is a JPEG, that's totally fine. PNG is fine too. What we don't want, if you have an iPhone in particular, what we don't want is an HEIC, which if you're airdropping it to yourself, in the photo settings, if you're sending an image through AirDrop, let me just walk myself through it. If you go to that share, and if you press up at the top options, it'll open an options menu and it'll say format, select most compatible, and that way you won't get that HEIC image airdrop to yourself. So I'm gonna place this in my drive, new folder, assets. Make sure I have my original image in here. All right, and we're good to go. So I will do that in my desktop as well. But for now, let's get Photoshop open. Let's go open desktop. And here is my sketch. All right. So I'm gonna get myself off the screen so you guys can see. So first I'm gonna do, I'm gonna check this image size just to see what I'm working with. It is, so 42 by 56 inches, that's plenty to work with. And you'll see when we resize this, or when we change the resolution, it will auto adjust the size. So first I'm going to save as Photoshop document. Make sure that my name is on that with cleanup. You could also do module 8, it doesn't matter. Save it there. So we have our Photoshop document saved. If my computer crashes, not that I hope it would, but if it does, I will have that file already saved. I might be able to recover it. So first, what I want to do is duplicate this layer. I'm gonna leave the, or actually, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna crop it. So I'm gonna press C, and that's gonna open up the crop frame. And I'm just gonna crop in, we'll say, let's do the entire paper. Or you know what? I would probably crop it in more like this, because I imagine if I was going to use this sketch for anything, it would probably be on like a presentation page, for if I was doing like a portfolio or something. So I'm gonna crop it, and I'm gonna leave that original exactly, or leave that original right here. I'm gonna do Command J or Control J. Oh, I need to make sure I select it. Yep. Command J. Maybe I need to unlock it. Maybe, okay, no, I just need to select it. Oh, gosh. I'm not on a Mac. That's why I'm like selecting the wrong thing. So layer 0, this original layer, I'm gonna leave this. This is gonna be my master. I'm not gonna do any editing to this. I'm gonna turn it off, and I'm only gonna work with this layer 0. And first what I'm gonna do is rotate this. So I'm gonna do Control T or Command T, and it's gonna open up that transformation frame here. And I'm just gonna rotate, holding Shift so it rotates 90 degrees. Press Enter. And then let me just take a look here. I'm even gonna crop it in just a hair more to about there. Yep, Enter. Make sure that looks good still. Yep. So really, I just want to make sure when if I do any cropping, that original on the bottom stays viewable. Like I'm not cropping off any details, because I did rotate this second one. All right. So from here, what I want to do is edit any perspective, and I'm also going to use the guide tools to sort of straighten out some of my lines. We've used guides in Illustrator, so same idea. We need to have our rulers, show our rulers, and we can pull them out the same way and move them around the same way, and then delete them if we need to. They don't go on a layer the same way as in Illustrator, so keep that in mind. But we can also lock them or clear them if we need. So let's see, I'm gonna go to, actually what I'm gonna do is Control T or Command T, and that's gonna open up the transformation frame again. And then I'm gonna right click it and let's do a distort. And this will allow me to sort of drag these edges up and down to fix any, like if I took this picture at a weird angle, I could fix that. Or if maybe like I didn't draw the lines super straight, I could fix that too. But let's see, let's use our guides to help us. And I can also edit this in with a couple other things, which I will talk about later. That looks a little better. And it's not that there's going to always be like a right order to things necessarily. Sometimes there is, but doing some edits at the beginning might save you, like doing this edit here where I'm changing the distortion of the image. That will save me time later in fixing it in a different method. So there are, again, different ways, many different ways to do many different things. There's no one way, and your workflow is your workflow. So what works best for you, what works best for me might not work best for you. But I'm finding this to look totally fine. I'm gonna press enter and lock in those transformations. You see that the transformation frame went away. And then I'm gonna clear my guides. So, like I was saying, if you do some steps earlier, saves you time later. I could definitely have straightened this out with a couple other tools, but I'm just gonna save myself the time and do it now. Looks pretty good. I might do some editing there later. Cool, so we are all set with this. As it's cropped, it's as straight as it can be. I took a good picture, like very straight up and down, and the iPhone has that nice little crosshair that will help you achieve that. So the better picture you take, the less editing you'll have to do later. Again, it's all give and take. Where do you want to put your time? All right, so next I'm going to go to Image, Mode, CMYK. And don't merge. Okay. Image mode. I am in CMYK. Cool. My image doesn't look too crazy. Just like the colors don't look like they altered too much. But we need to be in that CMYK for, potential printing. And now let's go to image size. See how big this is. It's still pretty large. I'm going to change this resolution to 300 and then scale it down. Let's do It's about square. I would say 10 by 10. Yeah, that looks good. Cool. So now that this is set up, we can start doing some of the adjustment layers, and then I'll show you some of the tools on the side here. So adjustment layers, this is something we went over last week. This is a non-destructive edit, meaning we can turn them on or off. This is great if you're doing something that needs to make a, you're showing clients and they say, I don't like this. You can go back, make those changes without too much effort. So I'm gonna add, grabbing this little half moon guy down here, right in the middle, adjustment levels. And if you guys remember me talking about levels last week, this is one of my favorite adjustment layers for things like sketches, because we can pull out those whites and really make it pop, make your sketches pop. So I'm gonna just grab the white eyedropper here and pop it in. Let's go here, maybe down here. Yep. So I'm on it, but what I'm doing is just clicking around to what I think should be the whitest part of the image. If you see, I clicked up here, now I have this like sort of bluish tone, but now if I click down here, that goes away. And I can grab that black, and let's grab a dark, boom. So my whites are popping, my blacks are popping, my colors, pretty good. But I think I'm gonna edit them just a hair. So again, just kind of touching on that non-destructive adjustment layer, I can just turn it off. I can add a different levels. So I can turn it off, add a different one. And go here. Maybe that's the edit I want. I mean, not for this assignment, but just showing you an example. Let's go here. So I could have this edit showing to a client, or I could have this edit showing to a client. Just so you guys know, like, you can have multiple of the same adjustments. They will stack, so make sure that the one you want showing is viewable. Let me delete this adjustment that I just added, and we'll leave that. Okay, so now I'm gonna add a color balance. And this is again where it's gonna really be up to your image of how, like, what settings you use here. I can boost my reds, lower my reds, make my blues pop out a bit. I think from here I'm just gonna play around with the sliders until I get something I'm like pretty happy with. Like, I don't want it too blue, I also don't want it too red. I want to like retain those blacks. And then I'm going to go into shadows. I want to get the red. I see there's, let me go back to 0. That's almost 0. When I see I'm at 0, because of my levels, my Sharpie outline has like a reddish tint to it, like a kind of a warmer, or like the color next to it, it's really coming through. So I'm going to pull that red down. Pull the green up. You see I pull the green up with shadows, and that black really comes through. And let's do highlights, see if we need to do any crazy adjustments. No. Maybe boost my greens, that will blend my markers a bit more. I think these are just Sharpies. so they don't have that like nice wash like Copics do. But I still want to maintain my little my pencil or my pen sort of like perspective lines. All right, so that looks okay. That one looks a bit more raw. You know what I can also do is select that adjustment layer and lower the opacity. Oh, no, I can't. We can only do 100 or 0. No, yes, we can. Okay. It was just taking a second to load. So if you're not fully committed and maybe you want to somewhere in between get some of that effect, go ahead and play with that opacity. Okay, that looks good. Just want to turn that off and see, what am I missing? And honestly, just holding up my sketch in front of me, I'm noticing this zone and this zone in particular where I started putting in those perspective lines, I have like white gel pen over it. So I think that's why it looks a little goofy. And you know what? I'm gonna just get rid of that in our next step. So once you have your color balance and levels set up, you know, your levels, your white should, you know, and if it's a sketch, your white should be completely white. Your background should be completely white, especially if your sketch is on a white paper. Color balance, that's gonna be really up to what colors you use, how many colors do you have in your sketch. You don't need to go crazy, but I just wanted them to be a little bit more rich. So from here, I'm gonna make sure I select the edited layer. I'm gonna call this edited layer. And we're gonna work with a couple different tools. So the first tool, just to like edit some of these rough spots, the first tool I want to use is the clone stamp. And I always forget, here it is, clone stamp. And if your workspace does not look like mine, go to Window, Workspace, Essentials should be default. So clone stamp, also keyboard shortcut S. The clone stamp is super useful because we can clone different parts of the image and essentially paint with them. So I'll show you what that means. So with clone stamp selected and my layer selected, I don't want my adjustment layer selected. What I'm gonna do is hold Option. And you see when I hold Option, this little crosshair shows up, right? And with like the hard brackets on your keyboard, I can go bigger, smaller for my brush size. So let's kind of start about there. And if I hold Option and select an area, so I'm holding Option or Alt on Windows, select that area, clicking, and then I bring my brush over here. You see that I can duplicate that section of my drawing. So how this is useful, let's zoom in just a bit. And let's go clone stamp, make it a little bit smaller. I'm gonna clone over here. And I'm just gonna brush this away. And I might even make the hardness of my brush just a bit harder so I don't get those like kind of weird fuzzy. And now let's go 80%. I'm gonna hold Shift, click, click. click, oh, still holding shift, click. And that's how I get straight lines. Let's zoom out just a bit. And let's go option, oh, sorry, clone stamp, S. There we go. Grab just like a blank spot and holding shift to make a straight line. Got rid of that like sort of mark. Let's go zoom out just a hair more. And I will go option, oh, I need clone stamp selected again, sorry. Option, let's grab from over here. And we'll go click, holding shift, and then click again. Click, holding shift, oops, click again. And you see I ended up cloning the top. I didn't, so let's undo that. Command Z or Control Z. Let's clone from up here. So holding option, click up here. Click, holding shift, click. Great. So what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna pause the recording and then just like clean up some of these edges. All right, so I've done a little bit of cleanup in this red block. Make sure we are on hand tool, and I've cleaned up a little bit of my edges. You know, I wasn't trying to go too crazy with it, but you know, because I do like some of those perspective lines that show through. It really adds that like sort of handmade feel, especially to like product design drawings. But I did save these sort of blemishes that I want to get rid of for another tool that I want to show you, and that's going to be the spot healing brush, which is J, hotkey J, right underneath the eyedropper tool. So spot healing brush will sort of use, will kind of determine like what is around it and what needs to be removed. So if I just sort of draw over this, it will determine that, you know, this pen mark doesn't match the background, so it can get rid of it. Now, it's not foolproof. Sometimes it works really well, sometimes it doesn't. See how I erased this eye and like this sort of like the blush that I drew for the watch face came up here. So it's using some sort of algorithm to determine like what are the commonalities on this image that it can use to mask or hide what I'm trying to hide with that brush tool. So it's great for like blemishes on the skin, flyaway hairs, but it's certainly not something you want to use all over. As you see, like I'm just trying to get rid of that little line, and it's like giving me a little bit of trouble. So I'm gonna undo. I might go in with the clone stamp for that, but if your blemishes you're trying to get rid of are like pencil marks, pen marks, whatever, indents in your paper, if they're pretty isolated from the subject, you know, they're not super tight on there, like they're kind of hanging off like this guy, it works a little bit better. So I'm just cleaning up, and again, we can control how big or how small we want that spot healing tool. Again, not foolproof, but a quick and easy, just sort of dab fix. So for the remainder, let's go back to spot healing tool. Oops. And, you know, I'm just gonna real quickly go over these edges using those shift clicks to get like crisper lines. And you don't, like, the shift click doesn't have to be like, you know, right, left, up, and down. It can go through at an angle like that. And then we'll grab my clone from over there, click, shift, click, shift, and get rid of those guys. Let's even clean up this edge. Boom. And then, great. So, that is it. I think I spent a total of, I don't know how long this video is, but let me grab me back on the screen. I didn't spend that much time on this, especially for something like a sketch. This is quick and easy, and again, it's where do you want to spend your time? Do you want to spend your time within the sketch, making it look nice so it's easier to edit later? Do you want to, take a nice picture so it's easier to crop and distort? It's all give and take of where you're putting your time, and where you can save time later. So my advice is just like, find out what your strengths are. Are you really good at taking photos? Are you really good at sketching? Or just really good at editing? Because for a long time, I was really focused on not caring about how my sketches look, but worried about making them presentable digitally. And of course, over time, sketches get better, but it's practice and doing. So let's go ahead and save this. And then what I'm going to do from here, make sure I have that in there, and then put my Photoshop right in there. And I'm just going to take a second to upload. In the meantime, I'm going to export a PNG. Oops. File, export, quick export as PNG. Save that right in my main folder. And then drag that into my Google Drive. So I have my Photoshop file and my PNG file with my original sketch in that assets folder. So, yeah, cool. That is about it.